You asked me about the name change. Name changes. Actually, there was a movement in the mid-'80s. And again, being the wife of the university historian, I have had sort of an inside track on that for 25 or so years. And when Bill Anderson became president of Mary Washington back in 1983, he and my husband had been very good friends for really the whole time that Bill A. had been here. I'll call them Bill A. and Bill C., so we'll know which one is which. But they had grown up in the same part of the country. They didn't grow up together, but they had a lot in common, and they bonded. They were good friends. And when Bill A. assumed the presidency, he asked Bill C. to come and be his executive assistant, which Bill C. did for about 5 years. And you know, being in the president's office up there, you know, he was in on everything that was going on. And you know, I mean, Bill C. wrote a lot of the position papers. He wrote a lot of speeches. You know, he helped Bill formulate policy. You know, was in on all the big staff meetings, and you know, he's just really an integral part of the administration. And when they decided that they wanted to consider changing the name, they hired a consulting firm that set up focus groups with prospective students, high school kids that are, you know, just beginning to think about going to college and where they want to go to college. And there were a number of them all over the state of Virginia, in Richmond, Northern Virginia, Roanoke, Tidewater, I don't know, maybe even the Valley, Virginia. Anyway, you know, a bunch of them. And the kids got paid to come, and they didn't know that they were being taped. They didn't know that this was something sponsored by Mary Washington College. They just were being paid to come and talk about what they were looking for in a school, and you know, what schools they planned to apply to, and that sort of thing. The bottom line of all those focus groups was that they thought Mary Washington was a girls' school, a private girls' school that didn't have any sports, that obviously wouldn't have any guys if it's a girls' school, and just wasn't the kind of place that they would want to go. Because even back in the mid-'80s, you know, going to a girls' school or going to an all-male school was really beginning to fall into disfavor, because kids want a coeducational experience. And a lot of them had never heard of Mary Washington, which was kind of surprising. I mean, it was a real eye-opener to watch these tapes and to hear what these kids had to say very candidly. And the reason that prospective students are such an important demographic in something like this is because that's your client base. You know, this is where your students are going to come from. This is where your alumni are going to come from. And it makes a difference who you recruit. Because, you know, if you can't recruit decent students, you know, you can't have really a top-notch school. It's just impossible. And also, it's not just a recruiting issue either. It's, I mean, you've got recruiting on the front end of the collegiate experience, but then on the back end, you've got your alumni experience, and you know, you're hoping that your alumni are going to be successful in their jobs, and that are going to be able, you know, to be donors back to the institution. And you know, they go hand in hand. I mean, they're not divorced from one another. So it is real important for that to happen. Anyway, back to the name change. It was obvious that these kids didn't want to go to a girls' school. A lot of them didn't want to go to private school. So they were not even going to consider Mary Washington when they went to these college night things. And the schools are set up alphabetically. And Mary Washington College was lined up alphabetically with Marymount and Mary Baldwin. Because to the uninitiated, why should Mary Washington College be any different from Mary Baldwin College?